Thank you so much. So I'm going to begin with sharing this really beautiful invocation from the Healing Justice Lineages that just came out by Kara Page and Erica Woodland. So I highly recommend it. So I know that we all are, coming at the, for some of us, we've had a full day of work and a lot of meetings. So I'm just going to invite us to just soften our gaze, close our eyes, and just connect to these words. We give thanks to Great Spirit, Creator, Universe, and the infinite names we have for the divine source from which everything emerges. To the elements earth, fire, air, and water that nourish us and teach us about balance and equilibrium. To the blessed ancestors whose dreams and visions for our collective liberation we work to realize. To the guardians, protectors, deities, gods, and goddesses that remind us of our divine purpose and dignity. We honor the way spirit has been central to this project and to the survival of our people. We ask for protection, clarity, courage, humility, and to remain steadfast in our commitment for total revolution. May we be willing to sacrifice, offer, and give up all that holds us back from the collective dream of our ancestors. To take this journey through time and space, to radically listen, to find our people and commit to the work of collective liberation, to transmute fear and domination. May we come to know and remember over and over again the abundance of wisdom available to us, to realize our true destiny, our inheritance, to be in right relationship with the creative energy in everything around us, to birth a new world. So I'm just going to invite us to take a deep breath and to absorb that. Thinking about the work that Ujima does and so many beloveds in our community, the ways that we serve is really connected to and really led by love. And what I want to share with us, with you all today is, when I was talking to Chaplain Clementina, I was sharing that, what I wanted to share during our time together is what is another way that we could love each other better. And, and oftentimes in moments of grief, so whether it's like grief because we've experienced the loss of someone close to us, the loss of a job, just there's so many things to grieve. I think that there's sometimes ways that we can unskillfully and inadvertently, just in this deep desire to support and to give love, we could be a little bit clumsy with it. So what I wanted to share with you all today is the ring theory. And the folks who came up with this ring theory, their names are Susan Silk and Barry Goldman. So I'll share, those names in the chat, and actually they'll be in the notes. So again, Susan Silk and Barry Goldman. And this theory was originally founded around what to do in a crisis. So when there is like some sort of emergency or when there is a loss. And, so in this theory, it's also known as the kvetching theory. The person in the middle is the person who's experiencing the crisis, right? So what I'm gonna guide us to do, so if you have pen and paper, or if you use, the little doodly doos on our computers or on our tablets where we could do like the drawing function, I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to do that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna practice creating our own kvetching circles. So, because the idea of this, it's about you comfort in and you support out, right? So how many times have we experienced, this loss? Let's say like we had a breakup, right? Or we lost our job. And we're like in this deep, pain, and we want to talk to someone and share what's happening to us. And then all of a sudden, our friend who's like very well-meaning, and maybe this has been us as well, who start to share a story about the horrible loss that they had and interrupt the thing that you're trying to talk about. And from this very like well-intentioned space, maybe just like nervousness and wanting to help, we inadvertently like cut the person off. Or sometimes, you know, there is someone that we're not that particularly close to, who wants to offer a level of support that the trust doesn't exist there, right? So someone might be, their way of wanting to be supportive is to maybe ask too many questions or offer, again, a type of support that just where like our internal boundaries are kind of activated and it actually doesn't feel like support. So again, so the first circle is like the person. So let's say that this is you, right? The next circle, right? You're gonna draw the name of, so it's just like a little bit bigger. You're gonna draw the next, you know, the person next closest to the crisis, right? Or to the loss. So we're gonna begin, with, and let's, you know, for this exercise, don't like choose like the hardest thing that you've been through. We really want us to, you know, start something light, but understand that this particular theory really helps, again, from like supporting someone or ourselves who are experiencing loss, to, again, a breakup, a job loss, you know, anything like that. So let us begin with our own name, right? And think about this, you know, this idea, or this experience that you've had. Now, in the second circle, right, in this experience that you have, who are the people who would be the ones that you would want close, the folks that you can feel supported by? You know, sometimes it's our partners, sometimes it's our like besties, right? So in the next ring are like close relatives, if you have that kind of relationship with your relatives or you're like your close friends. Then the next circle, right? It might be our colleagues, right? So it might be maybe our neighbors, or, you know, our acquaintances who aren't as close. And again, you know what your situation is. And then you do like another circle, right? Which is like a little bit bigger out. And maybe for you, this might be your neighbors or your colleagues, or some distant relatives that you might not have like deep emotional closeness with, you know, but they're like the one that, you know, that in some kind of emergency, you can call them to go to the supermarket and drop something off if you're sick. So the next thing that I want us to think about is, you know, we want to dump out and support in, right? Because one of the other things that we know is that, particularly like, let's say we are caregiving someone who is chronically ill, maybe someone who is dying, or just someone who, who's like really sick. So that person also needs support. So that's like the other thing that we want to think about as we're doing these concentric circles. So let's say, you know, the person in the middle, you know, who might be ill, who might be you, who's like had this loss, again, that person gets to say whatever they want. They get to complain unfiltered. They get to, you know, to sob, to fall apart, right? And then the person, when you're not the person in the middle, the goal and the focus is to listen and to help. And a lot of times, under these circumstances, I think we've all experienced this, that sometimes we get all of this unsolicited advice in the spirit of helping. So one of the things that I want us to consider is, you know, because listening is oftentimes more helpful than talking. Sometimes our nervousness and our desire to help, we're just like talking away, but we're not like being helpful. So just like before you open your mouth, just like take a moment and take a breath and ask yourself, is what I'm about to say going to provide comfort and support? Is this person asking for advice, or do they just want to be witnessed? Because when a person is in crisis, oftentimes they don't want to hear advice, in the middle of all of what is falling apart. And let us take a moment to remember like the times that maybe it's like, I just want to be heard. I just want to be witnessed. I don't want advice. So when we're offering that support to others, kind of like take that pause. And maybe if you're in the circle and you know this about yourself and you know this about the people that care for you, it might be supportive to like preface with saying, I'm not asking for advice. I just need a witness. And can you please just listen? This is what I need right now. And sometimes what folks just need after listening is comfort, and comfort could look like just by validating what the person is sharing, you know, validating that this must be really hard for you. Again, not jumping to solutions, not jumping to advice, but just like really acknowledging. Giving concrete support. Is there something that I can help with? Can I bring you food? Can I go to the supermarket? So just think about that time. This is not the time oftentimes either to like start rambling about the story about how this happened to you as well. And I just want to emphasize too that I think particularly in moments of like when someone, let's say, is sharing like a really hard medical diagnosis, or they're sharing grief, about a loss or an illness of a loved one. I often see this when folks are experiencing pregnancy loss, for example, that folks don't know what to say. And I just want to encourage you um, to be comfortable enough and courageous enough to be like, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you to listen. If you're ever at a loss for words, just know that that being clumsy, but being caring, like that gives comfort. But what we're kind of guiding against is like, what does love feel like right now? What would feel loving and caring for me right now? And if you know who you are, you know how your people are, being able to identify and communicate with, that with the folks that care for you, so they're able to support you and love you well. And I invite you to ask those questions of those that you're caring for. So sometimes they could be concrete, and it's like, you know what, I would really appreciate a meal or just witnessing or some alone time, but text me if you don't hear from me, just to check up on me. And and it's really around like what is practical to that person, and what feels supportive to that person, not necessarily what is going to make you feel better. Because a lot of times in the spirit of wanting to be helpful, we do the thing that eases our own anxiety about doing something for someone that we care about. So I just invite you to be soft, to be patient, to be caring, to be okay with being clumsy, right? And then when, those feelings of overwhelm, those feelings of like, oh, I think I messed up or I'm not sure what to do, that's when you go to the circles out, right? So you support in and then you dump out, right? So to the people who are an outside ring of you, you go to them. It was really hard to support our friend. They're having a really hard time. And I don't know what to do, right? So like those who are caring also deserve to be held skillfully. But what we don't want to do is burden the person who is in the center of the pain, whatever it is. So, so I think I'll stop there because I am at time, but I look forward to answering any questions that you all might have during the Q&A. So thank you so much.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing, my sister. Hmm. Can we all just take a deep breath just to inhale everything Luana shared. I was feeling and I received it. And I actually did the exercise. And for the first time, I put myself in the center. So I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you. Ooh, wow. All right. So I am so honored to be a part of this and, you know, to the organizers. I don't know how you selected us to be together. So I commend you with that. Because I feel what I'm going to do next is really connect. It just makes that connection about, you know, supporting in and dumping out. So what we're going to do is just try again a very quick activity, and it's called I Am. Before I try it, I know you guys received a document, a Google document. I don't know if you can have access to it. If not, we'll work it through to do it together. So I want to just really read two quotes, one by Dr. Deborah Prothero-Stitz and one by Dr. Scott Peck. A bit of a different drum, community making peace. So Deborah Prothero-Stitz talks about our shared responsibility. She says, violence is not the problem of one neighborhood or group, and the responses and solutions are not the responsibility of one sector of the community, one agency, one professional group or business. She says, coming together and owning these problems and the solutions are central. The other quote is the true meaning of community. Dr. Peck writes, a community is a group of individuals who have learned how to communicate honestly with each other, whose relationships go deeper than their massive composure, and who have developed some significant commitment to rejoice together, mourn together, and to delight in each other and make others' conditions our own. For me, I like to use this quote to remind me that I'm not in this alone. And although I have no control over what's happening, I do have control in how I respond. So if you are able to have access to the document, it's in the chat. If you can download it, what I am going to do is I don't know why my screen, gallery, okay. What I want to do, if you can download it. Now, for those of you, if this is going to be an interactive activity. So if you download it, can you just give me a sign, raise your hand, or some people are having tech issues. All right. So here's what we're going to do. This is going to be interactive. So I'm going to invite you to get off mute. You don't have to show your face, but I want to invite you to get off mute. This is an activity that's called I Am. While Luana shared support in, dump out, this I Am is going to invite you to focus on who you are, how you show up, and what you want people to know about you. I'm going to ask you some prompts, and I want to invite you to answer with your heart and soul and not with your head. Do not think of the right answers because there's no right or wrong answers. Are you accepting this invitation? You're still on mute, so I hope that you get off mute because I want to hear. I'm going to ask some questions and you're going to respond. And I'm going to ask you as I see you on the screen. So I want to invite you to have these 7 principles as you see them on my screen: love, unity, faith, hope, courage, justice, and forgiveness. Yes, you're also welcome to make a copy and you can try it on your own. We start off with I am. We're going to select 2 principles of peace. Love and focusing on the book that Luana shared with us, justice. So we're going to answer those already answered. I am love and I am justice. I hear. Susan, what do you hear? Something real or imaginary?
I hear hope.
You hear hope?
Mhm.
Thank you. Luana, I see. What do you see? Something real or imaginary?
I see love.
Thank you. And something, what do you taste? Something real or imaginary? I taste
Sweet tea.
sweet tea. And who's next to you? I touch. What do you touch? Something real or imaginary?
Joy.
I touch joy. Thank you. Didi, I smell. What do you smell? Something real or imaginary?
I smell the pizza I'm about to embark upon.
I'm telling you, girl. Thank you. Marian, I wonder. What do you wonder about?
Um, I wonder how my friend's doing.
I wonder how my friend is doing. Thank you. Jonah, I seek. What do you seek? Jano, am I saying it right?
Yeah, you are seeing it. Yep, yep.
What do you seek? What are you seeking?
I see laughter.
Laughter? Thank you. Who has Boston Ujima Project? I receive. What do you receive?
Receive the laughter.
I receive laughter. Natasha, I experience. What do you experience?
I experience happiness.
Happiness. Maggie, I plan. What do you plan?
A beautiful garden.
A beautiful garden. Sarah, I pray. What do you pray for? Or what do you pray?
For good health and joy and happiness.
Good health,
Yes, ma'am.
joy, and happiness. I failed shorthand. I practice. Mari, what do you practice?
I practice art and creation.
Art and creation. I pretend.
Yes.
Yaira, am I saying it right?
Yes, perfect. I
What do you pretend?
pretend.
Don't think, Jaira. Trust your instinct. Let it flow.
I pretend I'm totally fearless.
I'm totally fearless.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Shalita, I cry. Am I saying your name right? What makes you cry? Why do you cry? When do you cry? You're on mute, Shalita. All right, am I saying it right? L-Y-S-E. Lissy?
Hi, it's Liz.
Liz, okay, I cry.
I cry about security.
About security? I laugh. Samantha, what do you laugh? What makes you laugh?
I laugh to see my dog run after his toys.
Run after his toys? Thank you.
Yes.
Did someone move? Who didn't I call? I can't see the rest of my full screen. Did I call everybody? I'm gonna go back. Susan, back to you, I believe. What do you believe in?
I believe in love.
Thank you. I try, Luana.
I try to do my best.
Thank you. And Anne, I dream. What do you dream about?
I dream of a better world for my kids and grandkids. And everybody.
Thank you. How was it just answering these prompts as you heard them without having to think of the right answer? What came up for you, anybody? What came up for you when you responded to the prompts?
It was just natural. To me from deep within. It was kind of just like exhale, and you can just simply answer it without, just thinking so hard. So
Thank you. Anyone else? What came up for you?
It felt centering.
I'm sorry, Maggie. Maggie?
Sorry, I'm on my phone. It was not working great. I said it felt centering.
It felt centering. Thank you. Anyone else? And then we'll go up to the next one as my time is coming to an end. Anyone else?
It felt freeing.
It felt freeing. Yeah. One last one.
It felt natural.
It felt natural. Thank you. So those are all what we have within us. Again, life is life. We're all dealing with grief different ways. And I love the theme of love. It's all about love. And then again, the principle that Luana brought in, with the book, there's that justice. So these are the 7 principles that are at the heart of peaceful living. And this is what we use. This is what really kept me out of a mental institution. And also these principles are about me. How am I doing? How am I showing up? With everything in the world, I'm always in service. When do I take time for me to breathe and to center myself and to focus on myself and to remind myself that I am worthy? And as I continue to give out to others, how do I make sure I am refilling my tank? How do I make sure I am really beginning to heal my wounded heart so that I can continue to pour out? Because again, I'm at the center and sometimes I'm not at the center. I have to be on the way out for people. And so these I am and these 7 principles are really just a reminder for me to center myself when sometimes I don't have anyone or anywhere to turn, because sometimes it's the middle of the night. And instead of looking for everyone, I have to make sure I'm in a space that I can be centered. So what I want to do before we close out, I'm going to just read what you all came up with collectively, since it's all about love. So I am love and justice. I hear hope. I see love. I taste sweet tea. I touch joy. I smell the pizza that I'm about to eat. I wonder how my friends, I wonder how my friends are doing. I am love and justice. I seek laughter. I receive laughter. I experience happiness. I plan for a beautiful garden. I pray for good health and joy. I practice art and the creation of happiness. I am love and justice. I pretend I am totally fearless. I cry about security. I laugh to see my dog run. Oops. Oh, I believe in love. I try to do my best. I dream of a better world for my kids and grandkids and for everyone. I am love and justice. So as a collective community being here this evening, we created, again, we centered ourselves and shared what's within our heart as we are continuing to serve or as we are being served. I will type this up, the Boston Ujima Project. I will send this to you guys, and then that's something that you can share. One of the things that we do is we do this project in our prison, our Peace from Within at Plymouth County Correctional Facilities. And then all the poems that are compiled, they're compiled in a book that's called I Am. We also did this with the young people at the Bowden Street Health Center, the Youth Leadership Development. And again, all of their responses are compiled in a book called I Am the Asset of My Community. It's really reminding us, it starts with I am. Again, connected with Luana, sometimes we are the people that are in the center of that circle. And we're always trying to focus to help everybody else. And then we go home and we take it out on our family because we do not spend any time to focus on ourselves. So I just want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for trying it on. Just write them in the chat. Was that for me or? Okay, yes. So I'm done. I think I'm on time. Yes, it's 7:02. So again, thank you guys for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Chaplain, and thank you, Luana. This was a great session, and thank you for leading us through that activity. So we are going to open up Q&A portion. So you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question or put it in the chat. I think Yara, is it? You can go ahead.
Thank you. So something that's been coming up a lot for me as I hold space for others and just kind of going through my own life as well is that I have been caught at times, or I seem to get stuck very easily in this space of fear around when like harm and grief and suffering can be reproduced. So instances in which, like somebody was saying, like a heartbreak, knowing that there's a person out there who isn't acting responsibly or ethically in their relationships who might harm other people I'm in community with, or obviously in more serious issues like with what Chaplain Clementina works with and instances of violence that can take people's lives. Like I feel that I lose a lot of power and a lot of ability to really be there because I become very overwhelmed by the question of like just tending to what's happening in front of me when I'm just like, I go straight into that space of like, what can we do to prevent this from happening again? Or what can we do to make sure that nobody else is harmed? So I'm curious about strategies for really kind of keeping ourselves contained when this anxiety comes in or this fear comes in about the reproduction of harm and suffering in our community.
I'm going to speak from my personal perspective. Yaida, thank you so much for that. There's different things. I pencil myself. I am number one on my to-do list. I make time for me. I really schedule just whether it's 3 minutes, whether it's 5 minutes, it is time for me. No phones, no talking to anybody, just really that time for you. And that's the hardest part of the work, especially as women. We're always in service and we put ourselves last. The analogy that I want to give you, and it took me years to understand, when you're on an airplane and the flight attendant says, if you have children, if something happens, what does the flight attendants tell us to do? Put the mask on yourself first. And as mothers, as women, as caregivers, as servants, we always want to help somebody else. And I could not, when I was younger with my children, I could not, who would be so selfish to put the mask on themselves first and let something happen to the child? Well, it only took years. Well, if I put the mask on my child and something happens to me, who's going to be there to take care of them? So as we continue to serve, self-care, time for yourself, exactly one of the exercises that Luana, shared, the I am, really penciling yourself in and find something that makes you, that brings you joy. I think that was also one of our check-in questions. So it's really about self-love, really about self-love. And that's the hardest thing to do. So the invitation when we leave today, pencil yourself in tonight to do something for yourself. We have no control over what's happening in the world. What we do have control is how we react and how we show up. And that may sound selfish. It's not selfish, it is self-love. Because then people are watching you and they're seeing you and they're learning from you. And when you can take time to say, I am worthy, that's one of the biggest gifts you can give to anyone, especially the younger generation. So that's my gift to you.
I would add one thing to that amazing reflection that Chaplain Tina just shared. I would add that we're not meant to do this alone. So in your question, I heard, what can I do when this harm happens? What can I do when all of these things are out of my control? And to add, to the wisdom that was just shared, is like, we're not meant to do this alone. So, so first, getting rooted in yourself first. I'm hearing it's like, the dysregulation of your own nervous system. We're not in a condition to be of service. We're not in a condition to respond to crisis when our own nervous system is saying, I can't. So I think having compassion with yourself and coming home to yourself and like bearing witness to what feels hard and bearing witness to what is out of your control, but regulating yourself and creating the conditions to like, what are the things that you need to feel safety, to have access to a grounded place, to your full coherence, and then to be able to be of service in that way, because we don't have access to our genius when we're in survival mode.
Thank you both. That was very beautiful. And thank you, Jaira, for asking that question. My wonder is, like, my curiosity right now is centered around once you begin the self-care, because I'm brand new on that journey. And I used to be a person that had no boundary, and I used to think that that was a beautiful way to be. But I used to think that that was free-spirited, but now I'm finding that my freedom rests in solid yeses and even more super solid nos. As a form of self-care. And I'm wondering, when we talk about dysregulation, like, how do you deal and come to peace with oneself when it can feel, if you've been this way, I'm almost 40 years old, if you've been this way for a very long time, it can feel like people are not okay with the boundaries and it kind of like implodes. And it's like, then you start to question your own integrity. And was this too strict of a boundary? Like, and so how do we not second guess ourselves, especially when you are part of this beloved community, right? And people are expecting you to continue showing up the ways in which you have, but those ways may inadvertently not only cause harm to others because, you can't pour from an empty cup. And if you leave that glass boiling on the stove, it's going to burst. But I guess my question is like, okay, so somebody becomes upset that I cannot give, or that I cannot do, or I cannot share. How do I deal with, this might be your stuff, but it's also mine to hold because I have been allowing this much of me to be shared. And I feel like that was the answer to the question. Wow. But I just wanted to hear from y'all, not me. So thank you.
Ilana, Luana, you want to take that?
Sure. It's okay for people to be upset. Setting a boundary is not the same as like, it doesn't equal causing harm. So I think that there's ways that we're using, that we like use the word harm and get it all mixed up with someone being upset or angry or feels hurt and feels betrayed. That is that person's responsibility to navigate those feelings. But boundaries are not inherently violent. And I think that what winds up happening is when we're oriented to be of service, when we're oriented, and when part of our work in the world and our life's purpose is to be of service and to be generous and to love in this way, that people get used to experiencing you in a particular way. Sometimes the ways that we've been socialized, where like our goodness is connected to service, our value is connected to service. And when we say, it's my turn, particularly when we're in women, femme bodies, there is this expectation of like, you give generously, that makes you so good. And people love to like lift up the martyr, the one who gives so generously, and I think about like organizers who, people talk about like, they go to all the meetings and all the marches and they go to all the things and look at the way that they've collected all of the resources and look at how much they give. Is anybody asking them, how are they sleeping? Is anybody asking them, have they eaten? Is anybody asking, do they need childcare? Is anybody like checking in to see, like, I guarantee you that those folks have digestive issues, have back problems, have like migraines, have problems sleeping, that there is this way that that our humanity and our value are always like seen and centered. And we could only stay in our integrity of service when we're able to offer ourselves that grace. So if we're talking about like, you need to take care of yourself and freedom and self-care, but like, if you're like a hot mess, like, how are we supposed to be of service? How can we really truly stay in integrity if we ourselves are not embodying our values? So I just think that like, there are moments that we just have to be okay with people being disappointed. We have to be okay. And that's our own work. Right? So their work is to deal with their anger, deal with their disappointment, deal with feelings of betrayal, blah, 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 fill in the blank. But I think that it is in order for us to like embody these values of care, if we're falling apart, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And just to add to that, Dee Dee, here's an invitation. You make appointments, right? You have appointments in your book. Make an appointment with yourself. Me time, exact girl. Exactly. So I see you driving. You're committed to being on this. When you get home, open your calendar, whether it's a hard calendar, your phone calendar, your work calendar. And in that time, you select a time Me time. Yeah. Even if it's just a minute. Amen. Amen.
Yeah. Become unavailable to others. You could be available.
Yes. This what happens because it is about self-love. You are so busy giving. Are you giving to yourself? How much are you giving to yourself? And yes, you're right. When you become to say, I am worthy, everybody else gonna think you're selfish. Good for you. You can think I'm selfish. I am worthy. Again, you can't give what you don't have. And so this is an amazing opportunity. Try it on. And you know what? Luana and I are here. We're going to check in with you. We're going to check in with the, leaders of here to just say, are they trying it on? Because to come to a gathering like this, to ask the questions, when you know it works, when you begin to put in place what you've learned. Because we go all places. And we can say, and our resume is great for where we've gone. Like Luana said, the march. And sometimes I think, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. I'm not at the march. I'm not at this meeting. And then I've kind of sabotaged myself. And it's like, no, I've done enough. It's time for me. And so it's having that conversation with yourself. Are you your best friend? Are you worthy of self-love? Who is telling you what you're telling others? So that's the invitation. Find time. 3 times a day is me. In the morning before I get out of bed, 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. In the afternoon during lunchtime, there's no phone, there's no talking, there's no texting. I don't eat lunch at my desk. I walk away. And then in the evening, right now, it's past my bedtime, but I wanted to do this. My day ends at 3 o'clock. If it's an emergency, call 911. Don't talk to me because there's nothing that I can do. And it took me years to do that. So understanding and being that leader, we've learned from people before us that always do. I'm from Honduras, Central America. We're always doing. And then you go to bed, you still got to do because sometimes your husband wants to have sex, but you are just too daggone tired. So we're always doing, So as we get older, but we don't want to wait till you get to be 62 to do that. So the awareness, the self-awareness, and the fact that you're feeling emotion, now is the invitation to try it on. And then it's going to feel so good and freeing. Luana, hasta la vista, querida.
Yes, lunch date.
Yes.